When it comes to outstanding natural beauty, there aren't many parts of the world which are as fortunate as Snowdonia. As well as a wealth of picturesque villages, the land is immersed in rare wildlife and masses of cultural heritage. Celebrating 65 years of the land's riches and successes, we ask, can this tranquil utopia survive another 65 years? Or will industrial intervention, such as wind turbines, threaten to spoil the quietness of this natural paradise? Snowdonia National Park was established in 1951 and has long been of vital importance to the Welsh economy. Farming still remains one of the most important industries of the area. The woolen industry was one of the major contributors to the Welsh national economy, accounting for 2/3 of the nation's exports, playing an important role in the history and culture of the region, and their influence can still be seen and felt today. In contrast to the industrialised environment, Snowdonia's natural landscape comprises areas that have not been strongly influenced by human interaction. Due to the ongoing necessity to understand and study the landscape and make use of natural resources to produce green energy, it has become increasingly difficult, if not impossible, to find totally natural environments here on Earth. We met up with Bethan, a local 23-year-old who has lived and studied within Snowdonia, and asked how she feels about industrial changes affecting the landscape and the threats to the park's future.
Personally, I would argue that national parks aren't most appropriate places to develop those things. I think a national park status gives rise to loads of different opportunities or services to people that they're not associated with industrialisation. Especially if you live in a city or a suburb, or especially in Snowdonia, we've got quite a lot of sensitive landscapes, so if you were to make such a drastic development, then it would really impact the ecology, the conservation status. So yeah, I don't think the national park is the most appropriate place to develop.
Did you know the best places for wind farms are in coastal areas, at the top of rounded hills, open plains and gaps in mountains? The vision of planting wind farms in national parks to make the most of their open landscapes provokes ongoing heated discussion, usually between big energy companies looking for the best possible way to profit and local communities fighting back to secure their local landscape heritage. In 2015 it was revealed planners are backing moves to build a 16-turbine Brenny wind farm near Llanbrenny in North Wales, despite concerns from Snowdonia's National Park Authority. Jonathan Corley, Director of Planning and Land Management for Snowdonia authorities, admitted, potential plans will continuously come forward by individual developers and landowners, but we cannot always be certain where or when they will arise. We will permit small turbines under 20 metres within the park. We have also permitted many hydroelectric power schemes, about 50 or so, although generally the visual impact of these is not so great. As industrial technology advances, there will be more pressure put on untouched land in order to decrease costs. Officials are constantly looking for alternative methods of energy production. We met up with Dr. Christian Dunn, who lectures in land science, specialising in environmental and climate change at the Bangor University.
There's also things using Snowdonia for encouraging renewable energies. Some of these are incredibly controversial, such as wind turbines. And as soon as you start putting a wind turbine somewhere, you have to then start looking at, if you're doing this for a climate change reason, is having a wind turbine going to produce more carbon than it would do if it wasn't there? For example, if you put a wind turbine on certain areas of peatland, then potentially you can be releasing more carbon by destroying that peat than you would save by having a wind turbine there. But there are other ways that we could use the area for renewable energies, such as hydroelectric power. There are already some ideas for how they could be using that, but perhaps we should be encouraging that even more on Snowdonia.
When compared to other national parks within Wales, Snowdonia is the largest at 2,176 square kilometres. Away from the sea level, over 3,000 foot higher, It has unique infinite horizons from the peaks of Snowdonia's 9 mountains. It is a delightfully varied landscape of steep river gorges, waterfalls, passes and green valleys. Could this be enough to keep the park as deindustrialised as it is today?
I think you just have to be here for a second really, and you can see that it's an amazing place to be. You've got an eclectic mix of, sea, mountains, open heathland. Another reason why people might want to come to Snowdonia would be culture. I think we're probably the Welshest part of Wales. Snowdonia is a very much a working landscape, so we have farming. There's the slate quarries, so signs of heritage and history. And you've got loads of quaint little villages, attracts loads of people. So you come here to specifically walk up Snowdon, so that's one of the major tourist attractions in the area.
I came to Bangor really to start with because it's just the location. It really is a bit of a cliche because that's what most people say when they come to Bangor University, but it is the location. Being on the foothills of Snowdonia and next to kind of the coast as well. So we're literally sandwiched between two fantastic locations. Conserving the area of Snowdonia is a really important job, and the Snowdonia Society and all the other organisations involved in that have done a tremendous job over the years. But really looking forward to the future is, what do we want to use the land for? Yes, it's an incredibly beautiful area, one of the last areas of kind of wilderness in the United Kingdom. It's beautiful. When you're looking at conservation, you have to consider, do we want to conserve it how it was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago? The landscape has always changed. The hill farm produces lots of sheep and lots of wool, obviously some meat. But really Wales still imports 7 times the amount of meat that it produces, so it's still not, self-reliant. So the amount of sheep that it's producing is not, on the grand scale of things, essential for Wales's kind of food security. We should be encouraging the landowners to start to reforest the areas, to start to re-wet some of the peatlands that have been drained, to start to think about having hydroelectric power, all these sorts of different ways of using the land. So the farmers can still stay on the land because that's incredibly important for the heritage and the history of the land. But perhaps it's time to change that, because if we don't, then Snowdon as we know it, and Snowdonia as we know it, is going to change anyway because of climate change.
Snowdonia has recently been awarded Dark Sky status as of the 4th of December last year, adding to the already valuable landscape, making it the 10th landscape in the world to be awarded this title. Erin Williams, Chief Executive of Snowdonia's National Park Authority, says, "Achieving recognition means there will be a new natural attraction to attract new visitors to Snowdonia on quiet periods of the year. The local economy will be improved, and the dark sky above Snowdonia will be protected for future generations."
Snowdonia National Park Authority have obviously put in loads of work to, gain that status. It's just another reason to protect it, if you know what I mean. So it's definitely a positive. It's another platform or another tool that we can use, or another reason actually as to not develop, because developments will decrease the quality of the night sky in the Snowdonia National Park.
I think having dark sky status for Snowdon is incredibly important. It's not surprising in a way because we don't have big conurbations, we don't have big cities nearby, but it's still good to have that recognition, that official recognition that that we're only 1 in 10 places in the world to have it. That's incredibly important.
Industrial experts forecast such attempts to repower existing and new wind farm sites will become far more common in coming years, as old planning consents expire and developers seek to cash in on larger machines, which are more profitable.
People would be reluctant to allow that kind of development to happen. It's kind of the mentality of, we'll support it if, we see the benefits of it. So basically recently, there's another development which is just outside the National Park, where a group of local people, volunteers, they've basically grouped together and decided that they want to develop this hydropower scheme and created like a cooperative establishment. The local people have a share in the company basically, rather than one big company coming in and installing it and then it going away with all the money. I would argue that it's a case of enhancing and protecting it rather than keeping it how it is, because change is inevitable. We can't account for the things that are going to happen in the next 65 years, but we can hopefully do whatever we can as conservationists or people who live in the area to be able to help, keep it as best as possible, as it were.
And the big issue that we have as conservationists or managers of land is that climate change is happening, and it's changing habitats, it's changing entire landscapes. So if we just try to keep Snowdonia as it is now, perhaps we're fighting a losing battle, because climate change is happening, the whole habitat is changing anyway. So what do we want to do? How can we keep it as a snapshot, and do we want to keep it as a snapshot? Perhaps we don't want to keep it as it is now. Perhaps we want to change Snowdonia now in preparation, or almost to help us fight climate change. Snowdonia is a beautiful part of the world, absolutely fantastic. People enjoy it for all sorts of reasons, for tourism, the dark skies that there is now. So people come for all sorts of reasons to enjoy Snowdonia. But that doesn't mean that we can't tweak the management of the area to also give us more ecosystem services, to give us more value to the land.
It is unclear whether attitudes will change in the future towards generating energy more resourcefully within Snowdonia. However, both the energy companies and park locals admit the change would cause a great impact within the area. Will Snowdonia's highly respected cultural heritage and newly found dark sky status be enough to prevent further turbine planning? Or will the energy companies triumph in the future, using the land's natural resources to generate low-cost energy? Only time will tell, but for now we can celebrate the park's past 65 years and wish it well for the next 65 years, wherever that may take us.